Observations become quite familiar and part of everyday life when you're a student, an ECT or newly qualified. They become commonplace and the feedback given can be constructive and help you develop and move forward and develop in your teaching practice. Observations become accepted as part of the training process. However, once qualified, the mindset can change and observation can feel like you're being judged and monitored. You're juggling all the responsibilities of teaching and all that goes with it. Just keeping your head above water with the planning, marking and assessment, as well as trying to plan the trip that's taking place in 2 weeks' time, as well as bearing in mind that it's parents' evening coming up soon too. Oh, and then leadership inform you that observations will take place. With so much on your plate, how do you prepare? Hi everyone, I'm Natalie from My Progression, and today we're going to look at preparing for classroom observations. What is the point of an observation? Classroom observations are formal planned observations of classroom practices within a school by leadership or management. They're used to identify that teachers and support staff are providing a satisfactory learning experience for the students. An observation can identify weaknesses in your practice or teaching style, which can be addressed and supported with adjustments and training. Or they can be to identify outstanding practice, to be celebrated and acknowledged and perhaps even used as a model for other staff. Formal observations also support performance management and threshold assessment for pay and will support leadership and teachers in pay grade discussions. Sometimes observations are to monitor capabilities of teachers and support areas of weakness, and this in itself can be stressful. However, observations are a part of school life, so being prepared is key. Knowing what to expect and how to respond to such situations will help you be the best you can be, as well as get the best out of the observation to help you develop. Planned and incidental observations. Over the years, observations have evolved from just classroom-based observations to a broader view of school life with walkthroughs or learning walks. Learning walks are purposeful walkthroughs of schools with drop-in visits from governors to visitors from other schools, and they will drop into classrooms to focus on pupil learning and classroom practice. Unlike a classroom observation, which provides a single view of a classroom, a learning walk creates a school-wide picture made up of many small snapshots. Informal observations are also a part of learning walks, as visitors to your school may pop into your classroom whilst being shown around, and they may stay a short while and observe what's happening. They may talk to your students and also have a look around at the classroom environment, including your displays. Now, this can be a little distracting, but if you're confident in your teaching practice, embrace it and welcome visitors. Formal observations, however, are usually part of the wider teacher evaluation process. Observers tend to spend an entire lesson and then feed back to you within a short period of time, preferably straight after the lesson or within that school day. We do know, and Ofsted and Eston also know, that a lesson observation is only one tool among a range of evaluation methods for measuring teacher effectiveness. And the evidence should be triangulated to make informed assessments, so book scrutiny, observations and attainment of students through data analysis will build a picture of teacher effectiveness. Whilst this video is focusing on formal observations, please bear in mind that these are just a small part of your teaching life, and leadership and management will be observing constantly in an incidental way. Your daily behaviour, rapport with pupils, the way you speak to pupils and staff, the way you present yourself will be seen and even discussed, so be professional at all times. Who should do the observations? Observations are normally carried out by your line manager, who may be your head of year or head of department. It may also be carried out by a senior leader in your school. It may be carried out by 1 or 2 people, which I think is a positive, because it's always interesting and important to gain a number of perspectives of your lesson and teaching. 2 opinions can verify that it was good, and it may also be a training session for someone new to management. Observing is a skill in itself, and it does have to be learned. However, you should be fully aware of who is going to be coming into your classroom. Sometimes there may be outside visitors to school, such as governors or trustees, or even staff from another school. Staff may be asked to volunteer to be observed, or even approached to be observed. This may be to see best practice in a school or identify how a subject is effectively taught. For instance, if you're oracy lead in a school, you may be asked to showcase a good oracy lesson. They're usually productive and can be a great way of showing your excellent classroom practice. So things you should know about observations beforehand. You should always know that an observation, whatever its form, is taking place. You should know the focus of the observation, what they're looking at. It may be something like whole school use of AFL. You should be aware of who is coming into your classroom. Sometimes you may have a couple of observers, and sometimes there may be a small group of people. But whoever they are, you should be prepared. You should also know roughly when you'll get feedback and who will give it to you, and also how it will be given. It could be verbal or written. How to prepare for an observation. Treat every lesson like it's an observation. Get into the good habit of being fully planned and prepared each day. And in each lesson, take the attitude that if anyone walked into your classroom at any time, you'd be happy for them to see what was going on. If you approach observations with a negative attitude, they will likely have a negative outcome. If you approach them with a positive mindset, then you'll probably get positive results. It's important to welcome visitors and observers with a smile. Make sure they feel welcome, even if you're a bag of nerves. Preparing thoroughly, make sure your planning and resources are available and neat, including your presentation board. Preparation is key, but don't make it hard work for yourself. In a way, it should just be preparing for the next lesson with your class. However, have good routines and high standards in place as a practitioner to keep your head above water. So a few tips for good practice. Keep your classroom organised and tidy at all times. Spend 5 minutes at the end of the day just putting things away, checking that you have what you need for the next day. Check your displays are still in order and the borders are not coming off the wall. Just add that staple or drawing pin to keep that display looking good. Involve the children and encourage them to have pride in their learning environment. If you're lucky enough to have a TA, work together to make the classroom a great learning environment. Tidy up the tables too, and that book area the children love to use. Make sure the children know the classroom rules. It's always worth going over them and reminding them that, remember, we don't shout, we put our hands up. Prepare your presentation board. When being observed, I would perhaps add in a few more slides as they can act as a prompt if you have that moment of panic where your mind goes blank. Why not add little details such as a note saying what page you're reading from? Or remember it was Brad's turn to read. The students love it and you can make a thing of it. Oh, Brad, you had just volunteered to read last lesson, so will you read for us today? Thank you, you're a star. When you're going through your lesson, try to time it. Remember, this is not the you show. It's about the learning that occurs from your effective teaching. Do not have the children listening to you for 40 minutes and then a 10-minute task. Get the balance right. Prepare the children. Inform the children that there are visitors coming into class. Get the children on your side. Be enthusiastic and motivated and want to impress, and hopefully everything will go smoothly. Make sure the students know exactly what's going to happen, the objective of the lesson and the possible outcome. Be clear. You could even have instructions and the prompts on the board to support the whole class. The observers will be looking for good relationships with your pupils as well as pupil participation and engagement. It's always great if you're faced with a sea of hands up rather than silence and no hands up. Prepare your class that visitors will be coming into the class to see how great they are. Next lesson that we have together, there'll be visitors, so let's make sure they see how great we are. Yes, they are coming to see me teach, but they also want to see you learning, so they may speak to you and want to ask you some questions, perhaps look at your books. We must all remember to smile too. Make sure you have all that's needed for the observation. Your planning, IEPs, EHCPs, or support plans available. Depending on the visitor or who's doing the visit, do you need other information such as numbers of children on free school meals or your pupil premium children? It's worth checking with your line manager to see what you'll need. As an ECT or NQT, you're required to have regular observations throughout your induction period. Beyond that, the NEU recommends a maximum of 3 per year, and these 3 observations should not go beyond 3 hours in total. With learning walks becoming a popular way for leadership to have an overview on teaching and learning in school, what would you prefer? Would you like more regular but shorter observations, or full-length, in-depth observations? We'd love to hear about your experiences and your opinions, so please drop us a comment in the box below. And whilst you're there, why not like and subscribe to My Progression and click on the bell for regular updates. So we know that observations are very much part of school life and they're not going to go away. So preparation is key, and being confident that you are doing your very best at all times will support you in coping with the lead up to an observation of any form. I've been Natalie from My Progression, and let's keep your career in motion.